welcome everyone, good afternoon. First I want to thank you for coming to the last session, not ditching out to go shopping. Maybe you're not shopping because it's raining out, I don't know, because I would like to be there too, but thank you very much. So obviously you saw something in the write-up that intrigued you, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some information that you can take back to the school that you can use. So let me just start off with a quick introduction. My name is Adrienne Jones. I'm the Administrative Director at the Career Institute of Technology. I have kind of a unique role as the Administrative Director because I've lived in many roles at CIT over the years. I not only graduated from the school, I was a paraeducator for about 7 years, became certified in special ed, I was a learning support teacher, became the instructional coach, and I don't know, somehow went to the dark side of administration. It just happened. I love it. I miss the classroom, but it has its perks as well. So moving into administration, I was a supervisor career executive for almost 4 years, and now I've been the director there for just about 3 years. So I'm happy to be here presenting. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to introduce herself.
I'm Jamie Buzak. I am the wearer of all the hats at CIT. I'm a learning support teacher. I'm an instructional coach. I manage a lot of school projects that just kind of fall into my lap. I do a lot of the marketing stuff and the social media stuff, and I make all the videos, and I found this resource and I decided that we were going to implement it in areas that I have no control over, so I stepped in and said I think we should do it this way, and now this is how we have changed our touring and our scholarships, and then there's some classroom implications as well. So.
And we'll talk a little bit throughout the presentation. You know, oftentimes the instructional coaches are working directly with teachers to give them strategies and things in the classroom, but sometimes as a smaller school, we have to utilize all resources that we possibly can because administrators, we all wear multiple hats. So, you know, in Jamie's role, she sometimes acts as a project coordinator, she acts as sometimes a special ed teacher, and all those folks things. So that's where she was coming from. Just a little bit about our school. We are a half-day CTC, we're not comprehensive. We do have 5 sending districts, we have 18 programs. We're approximately 700 students. We're a little under that this year. We go up and down. We do have 20 instructional teachers. We also have a certified math instructor. And then we have 2 special ed teachers provided to us by our local IU. So just to give you a little bit of information of the resources that we have. All right.
So just to give you an intro of what we're going to talk about, if you've ever done any of those ridiculous online quizzes, like what sort of chocolate dessert are you, what Disney character are you, also the old school in the magazine where you would circle the answers and it would tell you about like your relationship status and whether or not your boyfriend was going to dump you after you totaled up all the points. Well, I found this tool that does that, and it's actually the exact tool that websites like BuzzFeed use. They offer a free version because it's actually a marketing tool. It's supposed to be something that would generate leads for a business, but if you use the free version and don't really necessarily need those leads like a school would, it works out really well. So there is paid versions too, but this was the description on their website, so I modified it a little bit. So we've all seen quizzes on Facebook and BuzzFeed, the ones we spend too much time taking and care way too much about which result we get. Interact is a tool for creating quizzes just like those, except for your school as a way of generating leads, driving traffic, and segmenting your students. Now, you may not want to segment your students because that sounds kind of bad, but, whoa! Oh man. But in this sense, segmenting your students may be important for things like classroom projects or groups, or if you think about a career tech ed center, you may have a program that has several different career pathways and you're trying to hone in and figure out exactly which students want to do which things. So that's why this could be really useful to find out what your students what category they may fall into that they may not know they fall into. You know, you don't know what Disney princess you are until you take the quiz. So this way you can take the quiz and find out what role you might fit in. So.
Can you tell she has little ones at home?
I have boys, they don't have
boys, not girls, yeah. As we go through this, you will find that some of this is going to be tailored to things that teachers can use in classrooms, things that student services can use, things that administration can use, so it is a little bit of everything. I'm going to talk a little bit about the first part from an administrative end, how Jamie and I work together for some of these things that work for our school, and then she'll jump into more of the classroom end for the classroom teacher. So just kind of for myself, showing hands, how many classroom teachers do we have with us today? pretty good amount, okay. How about administrators? Okay, all right, good. All right, that's often helpful. Did I miss any other categories?
They're in the back.
They're in the back, okay. All right, and coaches, yes, that's a good one. So again, that helps, and we'll talk about a couple different things. So moving on, we just want to share with you a little bit about how we got started. Every Wednesday, I meet with Jamie as the instructional coach, and we kind of brainstorm. Are there some things that we need to look at, reflecting upon what's coming up, what do we need to prepare for and plan for? And we brainstorm, I pick her brain, and we go through some things. So a lot of times I say, I come up with the idea, wave the magic wand, and she finds a way to make it happen. But in a real perfect world, that doesn't always happen. Some of the school needs that we found, we identified areas that we wanted to streamline, and that included increasing our scholarship applicants. We found that we really, and I'll get into the numbers, but we needed to increase that, and then also student placement and preparation for our school tours. So these were two identified areas from administration that Jamie found that this tool would be useful for. So let me just start with this. The question is, do any of your schools have scholarship applications that start off with a process that looks like this, right? I know I go into my kids' sending districts and you walk into the guidance department and it's just a wall of forms, right? So because we were having this issue where we felt like we had around 200 students that graduated here, and we were getting about 50 to 60 applications. And it was really concerning because there's so much free money, and I'm sure you guys experience this all the time. So we always talk about, well, how do we help the kids write the essays? How do we get the teachers to help them write the essays? That's kind of a separate problem that comes secondary. The first problem is, how do you get the application in their hand, and how do they know what they are eligible for? And I'm saying they, referring to the students, but let me take it another step. How do parents know what scholarships their son or daughter could be eligible for in the Career Tech Center? So, I said to Jamie, what can we do to get this online? This wall of forms just drives me crazy. I am a digital person, I am a technology person, the wall's got to go. So we went back and forth and thought, could we do something with Google, that parents could go to a Google website and whatever. She said, well, let me play around, and this is where her magic comes into place. And this is where she came up with, the quiz and try it. So, moving on, I kind of talked about this. How do we get more students to apply? How do we make it easier for them to submit and determine what they're eligible for? And again, how do we assist the parents? The other thing is, even if students are grabbing an application from that wall, is it getting home? Is mom and dad looking at it? Who's helping them fill that out? I will say that many teachers get overwhelmed at that time of the year. They're trying to prepare for NOCTI. They're trying to prepare to help get these students jobs, all that stuff. So now, you start scholarship time, preparing maybe February, March, April, the emails are coming out. Oftentimes in industry, we'll have somebody reach out to us last minute and say, hey, we would like to present a $1,000 scholarship to a student from your school who is graduating, and then give the criteria. So now teachers are being bombarded with emails regularly. Oh, here's another scholarship, here's another scholarship. These are great things, but now teachers are overwhelmed as well. So you'll see how we kind of put everything in one location for teachers to find, for parents to find, with deadlines, and then all students have to do is click on a link and answer a few questions, and it reports out to them, here are the 5 or 6 scholarships that you would be eligible for. I'm not sure how it is at your school, but our school, a lot of scholarships have certain criteria that not every student can meet. Do you come from this school district, and are you going into this industry, or there's income levels? So again, they might not know what they qualify for.
I think a big problem too is we throw out the word scholarship, 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 and so many of our kids do not want to go to college, so they completely ignore what you're saying once you say scholarship. But at our school, we have many monetary awards and tool awards that will just say scholarship, but we really mean a tool award or a monetary award. And they don't know that's available, so they're not applying. Or maybe they didn't have the time to remember to go down to the student services office to pick up the form because they forgot about it yesterday, and then it's a whole, it's not like the next morning they're coming to our school, it's the next afternoon after they spent their whole morning at their home school, and they're stressed out, and they, it just was hard to keep track of all that and hard to get those kids when they were there. So we figured there should be an easier way. We could put it on Facebook, we could put it on our website, so that way if we put it on Facebook and the parents see it, they can prod their kid to make them apply for it. And it just seemed to help out to make sure there was no, bases not covered there. So what I did, and honestly, I don't remember what idea came first, but I made a Google site, I don't know. I made a Google site that we attached to our website, just basically to help parents understand a little bit better what we offer. So first thing is just a description of the different types of awards, because we want everyone to understand that they are not only for kids going to college. So we have our scholarships, the tool awards are meant to be used to pay for tools, and then we have the monetary awards, which are just tears a check for $50. Do what you want with it. So this explains that. And then under that is where I put the quiz. So this is the website we're going to show you later, but this just shows they right here can take this quiz. So it'll say what school district do you attend. They pick their school district. You could make the screen bigger. Do you plan on attending college? Yes or no? So we say yes. Are you a protective services student? Because we have scholarships that are only for protective services students. So we'll say no. Let's see. No. This is only for students in these certain school districts. Do you plan on attending Lincoln Tech? That's such a random question, but there's a scholarship for that. We're going to say no. Here's another one. I'll say no. And then at the end, it gives them this result. So based on what I clicked on, I must be an Easton, Wilson, or Notre Dame student. And then down here is our description, just so they can verify that they got their information right. And then I put all of the scholarship applications in Google Drive, and then I put the Google Drive link into the website I'm going to show you, so that they can click on it right here and get the application without having to go to student services, or if they forget it, or whatever. So this way, they're all listed here. If they get changed, I can take one out. I can easily add a new one, but they can even screenshot this and take it to student services to get copies if they don't have a printer, and it'll tell them exactly what they can do. We had teachers, thankfully, who maybe just wanted to kill some time, I don't know, and they said, everybody get on the computer, you're all going to take this quiz so you can know what scholarships. Everybody get up and go get them, or print them out right here, I don't care. So we had all these students being forced to take this quiz, but it was an eye-opener for them because they maybe didn't realize that, oh my gosh, there's 8 things I could apply for, I didn't even know that. So after they see these results here, if they choose to print these out or get them, if they scroll down here, we have Google Calendar linked through Google Sites that I've made fake due dates for now, but it'll show the due date of each scholarship live right here on the calendar as the days go by. We have the contact information for our Student Services Department in case they need to talk to the secretary about any of the requirements or anything like that. And then as they scroll down, there's a description of every single scholarship, just a quick sentence or two about what it is, who's eligible, when it's due, and then they can also click on this link to get the application. So they can't miss it. If they choose not to take the quiz and they just want to scroll through this, they can do that. Or if they take the quiz and then just want a little bit more information, they can scroll through all of these. And this for parents too, or even for board members or that want to see what we have to offer, they can come and see the description of all the different awards we have right here.
We also did a scholarship event in one of the communities for 2 of the sending districts, and I went and took laptops. It was called the Hub Teen Center, and I took 10 or 12 laptops and set them all up. And then the sending districts from Bangor and Penardville came with their applications, and I thought it was interesting because they had big long tables with all the papers there. So these parents came in and they're grabbing one by one by one, and they're in the same situation too, that not all of those applications apply to every student. It depends on where they're going. So, and then they came over to the CIT part and said, where's your application? I said, well, have a seat, take a few, it's a couple. You saw how quick the quiz was, and then afterwards they could see what they were eligible for. The other thing is the 2 counselors that were there at that time said, this was great because now they know back at the district, when the students come into their offices looking for support, they know from the district level what scholarships do CIT offer. And I said, it goes both ways. We would love to have a copy or love to have an electronic version to know what scholarships do the sending districts offer, because we might be able to help encourage or help your students write some of the scholarships as well. You know, we need to find a better way to partner and work together on this instead of being too separate with it. So, any other questions on the scholarship part before we test?
So I would be a school from like a sending school.
Okay.
So I have a webpage where our kids log on to and parents can see everything on there.
Great.
But it's just, are you just putting local scholarships on yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with the ones that get sent to, every year we have scholarships sent to our student services department. This is what we're offering this year, because sometimes they may be, you know, a charity organization or a memorial fund where they don't know every year how much they're going to be able to give. It might be based on fundraising, so we wait every year for them to submit them, and then student services rolls them out and says, here's what's available now, here's another one, here's another one. So what we did was we kind of took the old list of things that we know always come through so that I could get it started early enough, and then if there were any that weren't offered that year, I would either take them out or, you know, put an X through them or something like that. But yeah, they're all local, just based on what we give out at our senior awards program and things that they can get locally. We don't put any kind of, you know, like Career Safe or the, you know, Pepsi, like those kind of things. That would be, you know, immense, but.
Good question, though. Yes, was there another question before I move on? Okay. Real quick, I just want to share, and you have it in your packet, just the results. You know, again, we're a small school. We have between 190 and 200 students that graduate a year. You can see where we went from 57 students to 79. It's an increase of about 20%, and, you know, any increase we are very thrilled with, and, you know, we got a late start with this too, so going into next year, I think we want to start it a lot sooner.
Yeah, and plus one downside that I can't fix is that most of these require you to print it out and handwrite it and then either mail it or deliver it somewhere.
Yeah.
So at least if they're taking it and seeing what's available, they can get a start on it, but it's still up to them to remember to turn it in, and we know how that goes. So.
Yeah, and then again, we already talked about some of the benefits where the district can access it. We really did get a lot of positive feedback from parents, giving the parents the ability, and I think that was the big key right there. And then teachers, I keep having to come back, because a lot of you raise your hands. If you're program teachers, you know how overwhelmed you are. When Jamie showed you the running list of due dates, she just put a couple dates in, but that was so helpful for many of our teachers, because they could scroll down and say, oh my goodness, you know, these are the upcoming ones within the next 3 days. I better make sure all my students who qualified for that either handed in their application or have let them know that they weren't interested.
Yeah, and one teacher specifically reached out, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you did that, because every year we get emails, and this one's available, and then this one's available, and then this one's available, and my email gets bogged down, and something comes up, and I forget about it, and then I don't tell the kids. And if the kids aren't listening to the morning announcements, or they're not paying attention to what's on the digital screens, then they miss it. So this way, he could, you know, in one shot, get it all out there, and as a warm-up activity, you know, have them printed out. Yes, Mrs. Lindblad?
Yeah, I have to say, as a teacher at the school, it was so lovely seeing students with scholarship applications that I had nothing to do with. It was wonderful, and they're filling it out like, wow, you went and got that, I'm so proud of you. But it just took a lot of work off of our shoulders of constantly saying, anybody get this? I'm going to give it out to everybody, and, you know, over and over again. It was really very,
And I think a lot of work of you having to know all the criteria
Yes.
for each individual one, and then all your students' criteria where you're trying to match, oh no, you're not eligible for that one, oh no, are you going to a trade school, or are you going to a some of them have to go to a four-year college. They know that information, so,
yeah.
good point. All right. Any other questions before we move off of the scholarship part? Okay, so again, second question or second problem is we start talking about student placement, and in general, when we talk about student placement, you know, how do we make sure that students are being put in programs that are aligned with their career objectives and not where their boyfriend or girlfriend are, or just, you know, what they happen to like that day when they walk through? So that's obviously a question that we all experience all the time, or a challenge. How do we reduce the impact then of students changing programs? You know, this always happens. We get into the first marking period, and you take a look at your data, and you see how many students have moved and changed, and then you had some programs that were full, students were on a waiting list, now there's 10 spots open. Now it's just, you know, what do we do to ensure the best we can that when students select a program, we've done a good job at appropriately placing them based on their interests, based on maybe even their IEPs or their level of ability and things like that. So this is not a problem that is unique to CIT. Every Career Tech Center, I'm sure, experiences this problem. However, we wanted to take it back to where do we start exposing students within our districts to the options that they have for CIT. And it really, for us, starts with grades for 9th grade tours. I did not mention, our students come in grades 10, 11, and 12. So we really target the 8th and 9th grade level. So we do tours where the 9th grade students come in and they do program visits. And then we also schedule individual program visits if it's a student other than 9th grade, if they're in 10th grade looking to enroll at a later time. So with these problems in place, I said to Jamie, what can we do to make sure that they're placed appropriately? And she's going to talk a little bit about how she was able to develop something that's customized to the programs that we offer.
Yeah, okay. So if everybody has a device, obviously you don't have to do this, but it'll be a lot more fun and engaging if you do. So if you go to this website that says ILC quiz, this is the quiz that we developed for any students either going on a tour, looking to come visit, maybe a curious student with an IEP, and the IEP team is trying to see if they maybe would be a good fit, if there's anything there for them, or students who are looking to change programs. You get those wishy-washy students that are like, well, I don't know, I might like auto, and you don't really get a solid answer. So if everybody could take the quiz, it's 28 questions, but it's all yes or no answers. I'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, so how many of you got human services? So if you did not get human services, maybe you're in the wrong career. No, I'm kidding. So if you've seen Career Cruising, that website, a lot of our homeschools use that. It's a great website, right? But if it tells you you need to be a garbage man, there's nothing at our school that can help you with that. So we would have students coming that with an IEP, and it would be in there, well, when I did my Career Cruising, it told me I should be this, or 9th graders that had done it and they looked at our list of programs and they didn't really see anything that they thought worked for them. So we kind of thought about it and said we need to have them know what we have that would be good for them, but they don't know what a lot of things are yet. They don't know what machining is, and they might not understand what CAD is. So what I did was I came up with a bunch of statements. You saw, they're all very basic statements. And what this website allows you to do is branch answers to a specific result. So Google Forms lets you do a thing where if they pick yes, it'll send them to this question. If they pick no, it'll send them to this question. Not like that. This is if you say yes or no, it'll point you to a different result based on how you do it. Just like those personality quizzes, and just like the ones in the book where if you change one answer, then you get different results. So our results that you could have gotten, what I did was I took all of our programs, we had our clusters kind of over the years had changed, and we have 18 different programs, and I broke them into about 3 programs each based on interest, not necessarily based on career. Because when we said manufacturing, our manufacturing cluster had like 7 different programs in it. But a kid that's into electronics may not really be into auto collision, but we still had them in the same cluster. So if you look at our results here, you could get human services, which was early childhood education, protective services, and health-related technology, which are all programs where you are helping someone else out of the goodness of your heart. Retail services was marketing, culinary arts, and Cosmo, which is you are providing a service to someone that they are paying for. Computer electronics, that's our computer systems networking and electronics program. Building construction, that obviously we have more. We have HVAC, masonry, electrical construction, building property maintenance, and building construction. Automotive, we have automotive technology, which is like mechanics and automotive collision. And then in our manufacturing one, we had welding, machine tool, and CAD. So what we did was we took the results, we purposely did not put the program names. I did not want them to get a result that said, you should go to machine tool. Because I didn't want them to say, oh no, that kid on my bus is in machine tool and I hate that kid. I'm not going in there. Or my dad told me not to go in there. I wanted them to see it without knowing that they were seeing it. So they just got these statements that kind of should reaffirm the choices they made on the quiz. And then the way we decided to use it on a grand scale is not only for the touring students, because we needed a way to change our tours. What they were doing was asking the kids, well, pick 3 programs that you want to see. So they were picking what they thought they might like, what their boyfriend liked, what their dad told them to do, what they had heard of, because it sounded familiar. And it wasn't really effective, because we would have these tour groups coming to our programs, and the teachers were like, I don't know, half the kids acted like they didn't even want to be there, they didn't know what I was talking about, they weren't engaged. And then it allowed us to make these groups based on true interests. So I could group together all these kids that wanted to help people. We were able to use it for counselors at our home schools who had students that were maybe curious, or maybe the counselors, were doing 9th grade interviews and just, hey, why don't you just take this quiz and see what you get? Maybe you'll figure out something that you didn't know about yourself. IEP teams, very valuable. I was an IEP, I had managed a caseload of 25 students in my last job. I did learning support, and I worked at one of the districts that sends their kids to the school I'm at. So that was really neat, because I was able to switch jobs mid-year and see my students who I taught English to and wrote their IEPs, and now I get to see that they're getting advanced on their knocking and welding, and they can barely write a sentence. So that was, something that was really neat for me to see. But I'm always looking at things from that perspective, because I always knew how the case managers felt, where they didn't really know a lot about our school. They didn't really know about all the programs. So this way we could give them this tool and say, you don't really need to know anything about it. It would be nice if you did, but they could take this quiz and point the students towards a certain program. And then also students who are looking to change programs. We've started doing it where they cannot change programs unless they take this quiz. Because if they're in electronics and they say, well, I think I want to do culinary, and they take this quiz and they get building construction, we can be like, if you go to culinary, are you going to change your mind again? Because this actually says that you would probably really like building construction. Why don't we check that out first? And it kind of helped clear up some of those gray areas. And also parents, I put it on our school website and I put it on Facebook as just a fun little tool. Parents like to do that stuff too. Like, hey, take this quiz, see what you should do with your life. And that way before open house, we can push that out, and then maybe when they come to open house, they can take their kids to certain programs that they didn't know we had or they didn't know anything about. So it really can be used for so many different things within our school. So what we do, if any of you coordinate tours, if you don't, then I'm sorry, I'm talking through this so much, but we had to find a way for the kids to take the quiz, and then for the homeschools to be able to know what the results were so that we can appropriately group the students, and so that they could make sure that all the students coming on the tour had taken the quiz and had a group. So I created a Google form for each result. So you got a result that maybe said you belong in our manufacturing cluster. So I made a Google form for manufacturing, made a Google form for human services. So I had 6 different Google forms, and I had them bleed into one Google sheet. So if you have a Google person at your school that can help you do this, it's not difficult, but you can have it. So all these forms go onto one sheet, so you have all the results at once, and that way we could say, the homeschool would say, well, we're supposed to be bringing 95 students and only 40 have taken the quiz, and tours are next week. So we would say, okay, hurry up, get the rest of those kids, so they could easily make sure everybody had a group. And then I was able to go in and make sure the groups were even. We didn't want to have 40 kids in one group and 10 kids in another group. So I broke up all the programs into, I took the amount of kids and divided it by 3. And then we split it up. So we had 3 tour sessions with every tour. So 3 20-minute blocks within an hour-long tour. So if there were 30 kids that got human services, the first 10 would go to culinary, or the first 10 would go to health-related, the second 10 would go to protective services, the third 10 would go to early childhood, and then they would kind of all switch. So there was a group of 10, at each program at each time. So this was super easy for our counselors, or for their counselors, because they could get the kids on the bus, they could look at that Google sheet, I would have edited it to put the group number for all those kids, and they could look at the kid, you're group 1, you're group 4, and when they walked into our cafeteria, there were big signs, group 1 over here, group 2 over here, so it really expedited that process, and got rid of all that paper, because they had all these kids filling out these little papers, and they had to collect all the papers and organize all the papers, and nobody likes paper, so. So this is kind of how it works. Your quiz did not have this. So the quiz you took, you would have gotten a result, but underneath, it was blank. They have this thing called a call to action button, which I'll show you. But you can add this call to action button in, and when they click on that, it'll take them to any link you want. So I linked it to the Google form. So what our students would do is they would take the quiz, click on tell us your results, and they would get that Google form that said retail services, and it would say, what is your name? And all they had to do was type their name in and hit submit. And that would go to that Google sheet. So that's how we got it. When I put it on Facebook, I take that call to action button off, because I don't want people emailing me telling me what their results were. I don't care. So this way, we could play around with it, personalize it when we needed to, take that button off when we didn't want to. And this is where they get that marketing piece, this website. They'll say, you know, your Disney princess is Cinderella. And you could click there and it'll take you to the Disney website, you know, or whatever company website works with that program. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So we're going to get into a little bit now of the actual site and how it works and how teachers can use it. Does anybody have any questions about the tour situation? No? So, like I said, this is a website used by major companies and major websites. So, makeup brands, you know, you might go to their website and you'll say, what's your makeup IQ? And you can take this little quiz. So they have 3 types of quizzes. Personality quizzes, which is exactly what I just gave you. So I came up with a couple, they have templates. So whatever your program is, you could probably figure something out to do one of these personality quizzes. So if we look at what international cuisine are you, I can come right here and I can take the quiz, if I was a culinary instructor, and you can make it as vague or as specific as you want. So where would you go for spring break? Jen Russ, where would you go for spring break?
A cabin in the woods.
Okay. Which food do you lean towards? Meat? Which country would you travel to?
Italy.
And where do you usually eat? Now, this was where they brought in that marketing element, so, you know, just pick one. Flacos tacos. How much spice do you like?
If I'm not sweating, it's not hot.
Which of these meals would you order? The kebab?
Tacos.
The tacos? All right, because you went to Flacos tacos. And then pick dessert for us.
German chocolate cake.
Oh, one more thing. What do you like to drink?
It's not.
It is for school purposes.
Water.
Water, okay. So, Jen should make Mexican pork chili verde. So, if you were a culinary arts instructor, you could really do a lot with this. You could do it as a fun little activity, which is for new students. You could use it as something, if you're trying to come up with a cuisine for an upcoming banquet or a catering event and you really want to know what your kids would get, come up with a little poll like this and then see what the majority of the class got. Or maybe if you have them in groups, you know, okay, everybody that got Mexican, get together, we're going to come up with a Mexican menu. Everybody that got Italian, we're going to come up with an Italian menu. And you could really kind of take it from there.
Even the beginning of the year, likes and interests, and
Yeah.
getting to know your students and how to group them, and what, this is a great way. Because again, you can customize the pictures, you can customize what the question is, so.
Another one that I'm not going to go through, but what kind of engineer are you? Mechanical, electrical, chemical, or maybe something else? So programs that have a lot of different career pathways, like thinking of our health-related technology program, they could be nurses or dental hygienists or going to sonography or going to a nursing home. There's so many different paths. So if the teacher was able to kind of come up with questions that would lead to those different pathways, they might be able to get a better idea of what the majority of their class is interested in. Because you don't want to be teaching, you know, you could ask them on a sheet of paper, but by doing it this way, you can ask them those questions that point to that direction and they don't know what's pointing that direction. You know what I mean? Like, are you comfortable around bodily fluids? You know, like silly things like that. That if you select so many yeses and so many nos, it's going to give you exactly the result that the teacher wants. So these are the personality type quizzes that I talked about. Another type, scored quizzes. So these are the kind like in the old Cosmo magazine when you would circle your answer and each answer would have a certain amount of points, and then you'd add up all your 3-point answers, all your 2-point answers, all your 1-point answers, and it would give you a thing to circle. That's what these scored quizzes are. So if I was a cosmetology teacher, I might want to do something about the PA salon code book. So what I did was made this just quick little quiz. And based on the answers the students give, it'll tell them if they should stick to being a shampooist or if they're a junior stylist, or if they can be a salon manager. And by just doing that, they can see, oh boy, I need to study more. And what I did was at the end, that call to action button, it said, you know, you're a junior stylist, congratulations, you still have some work to do, but you're on the right path. And then if they clicked on that call to action button, it took them to the PA code website so they could practice more questions. Or maybe I take them to a Google quiz that has more reviews or something like that, or a link to a Google Doc that has the review questions for them. So you can really target it however you want based on that, that call to action. Last kind of quiz they do, this is pretty boring, it's just a random assessment quiz, just like you would give a quiz. You know, there's 100 points, you got 10 of them wrong, you have 90%. So those are not as exciting, but it's still possible. Okay, so I want to show you the actual website, how it works, just to kind of help you wrap your brain around it. So like I said, it is free. It looks like this when you go to it. If you want to see their pricing, I think the cheapest one is $17 a month, but we do the free version. The free version lets you create as many quizzes as you want, and it lets it be completed as many times. There's no limitation on how many people can take the quiz, but we don't need to collect emails because we are not a brand, and we don't need to integrate it into any kind of, you know, figuring out analytics or anything like that. But if you wanted to pay for it, you could. Okay, so once we go here, you can see, I'll show you what our career quiz looks like. To show you one that's already complete. So they have this thing called branching logic that you have to pay for. But basically what that is if you're not very good at planning these things out in your head, it allows you to make a mind map. You ever see those virtual mind map tools that let you drag the little bubbles and it connects it with the lines? It'll let you do that on the website, but you could do that yourself on a piece of paper. So what you have to do is start with the end in mind. So if you come over here, on this side over here, I have my results. So I had to come up with my results first, because you can't point the questions anywhere until you have your results, okay? So my first result, retail services, I picked 3 pictures that show the different programs. We have our culinary, our marketing, and our Cosmo. The kids don't know that, but they might look at this and say, hey, I like money and food, you know. And then here's that call to action button I talked about. You can hide it, which means turning it off, or you can add any URL you want. That's why I linked it to the Google form. But I could also link it to our school website. I could link it to the specific program website that's here. I could list it to an application, you know, for our school. We have our computer electronics, our human services, so all of our results are over here on the left-hand side. It doesn't matter what order they're in. And then you start creating your questions. So, this was our first question that you saw. I'm good at reading and understanding maps, diagrams, plans, and technical manuals. The images, it's really nice. They have a built-in search feature which will search through high-quality photos that have 0 copyright things on them. So you can get really nice pictures attached, or you can upload your own pictures. And then I have my results, and right here where it says Edit Result Correlations, that's the important part. So when I do this, you can see how it's mapped out. So this one was about, let's see, what did it say? I am good at reading and understanding maps, diagrams, plans, and technical manuals. So if they choose yes, it'll correlate to computer electronics, building construction, the blueprints, automotive, and manufacturing. So those are all programs where you have to be able to read technical manuals and maps. If they say no, I point them towards the programs that don't require that. Now it's up to you. You don't have to have anything here. It could just be that if they say yes, it points them here. If they say no, nothing happens. Because sometimes if they say no, it may not impact it a whole lot. But we do it that way just to kind of give it a little bit more direction. So you do that for every question. I like to sell brain teasers. That I only chose to push those to those programs. Because if a kid says no, that doesn't necessarily mean they wouldn't be good at welding, just because they don't like puzzles. But if they do like it, it may help you a little bit. So you go through this for everyone. And like I said, the important thing, they have that branching logic feature, but if you do it on a sheet of paper and you have your results and you start drawing arrows yourself, it helps you kind of analyze the logistics of how it's all going to work and whether or not it's going to work. Because you really have to make sure that you have enough questions to balance out the results. If you have 10 questions about cosmetology and 4 questions about manufacturing, they're always going to get cosmetology because you have 10 questions pushing them in that direction. So what I did was I had to really break down each result and come up with maybe 6 questions that would point them towards each result so that it would always balance out. We had students that were in our currently enrolled take the quiz to see what they got, and for them to, I wanted to know, was there anything you felt like, was there any questions that you didn't feel were asked? Like something that you really like that pushed you towards this program that I didn't address? And miraculously, they said no. I think welding was the only one that thought that maybe there wasn't enough questions that pointed towards welding. So I made an adjustment there. But you really have to try it out, sample it, make sure that the results are pretty much, change your answer, see what happens. But from a classroom perspective, if you're just doing it on like one topic, it's a lot easier to map out. So if you were doing it on the career pathways, it might be easier, because if they pick a wrong answer, they're not going to go off in a totally wrong direction. You're still in the same program. But it's a pretty easy thing to do once you figure out how it all works out. So we have all of our questions on the left-hand side here, and then once we're done, we can choose to publish it. And the nice thing is, since this is a major website, when you go to publish it, it'll let you choose. You could do a pop-up on your website, an announcement bar, you could send it straight to Facebook. I always do the direct link, because then I can put it wherever I need to put it. But that's, from a promotional standpoint, they make it really easy. They also do polls. I haven't done anything with that yet, but I think they're pretty similar to the quizzes. And you can also do giveaways, which I also have not played around with. But you can, there's a timer on here, and they can put their email in, and it'll enter them into a giveaway. So this could be helpful too for schools for, funny little things.
And I know originally we were talking about, well, where do we even start with the types of questions that you ask? Because remember, we're trying to make this custom and unique to the programs we have in our school. So I know you kind of pulled from tons of different resources. I mean, there's tons of career interest surveys out there. So just start reading through them and look for questions that are fitting to each one of your programs. But like Jamie said, you have to make sure that they're balanced, that you don't have 10 Cosmo questions and 4 welding questions. So I think that was the biggest challenge at first, is like, well, where do we start? How do we come up with questions? Some of them are very obvious, do you work with your hands? Do you like to work outdoors? Do you like to work indoors? Those are the obvious ones. But when you want to get enough questions for each program, if you're struggling, just look at some of the other career surveys.
Another really nice thing about this website, if you create an account and go to create new quiz, you get to choose if you want to look at a template or if you want to start from scratch. They have over 1,000 templates already done in different categories that are all really, really relatable to Career Tech Ed, because they're meant for businesses and marketing purposes. So there's career has a whole 38 templates on different careers, marketing, health and fitness, food. So you can go through these. Here's automotive, and just because it may not be exactly what you want, but it gives you a starting point, or even just for a fun little warm-up activity. Find your soulmate on wheels. How much do you know about cars? Are you a bad passenger in the car? So you can pick one of these, you can use the template, and then you can go through and edit it however you want.
And you said our template is on there,
Yes.
our quiz.
I just found that out yesterday. I was updating this presentation, and I was like, I'm going to click on the career, and sure enough, where is it? Our quiz is on here, right here. Which career cluster is right for you? 29 questions. This is our template exactly. So the only thing is, if you are going to use it, we have 18 programs. You probably have programs that we don't have, or we probably have ones that you don't have. So you really have to make sure you look at it and adjust the results and adjust the questions. So for someone like me, I would rather say, no, I'll just do it myself and start from scratch, because I wouldn't want to. But it's a good starting point if you just want to look at it and see how it works out. So you can do that. Or there's really, can you pass this job interview? Are you in the right career? So there's a lot of them on here that could be good for PDP, employability stuff. You just want to make sure you go through all the questions because this is used by lots of different brands. So I did a makeup one and I was just going to use that as one of my samples, and then like 4 of the questions were about L'Oreal. So I was like, oh, this must be made by L'Oreal. So you want to target it towards what you need. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So you said you had a free version, but the place where
Yes.
like the arrows were going down, that's,
The branching logic. Well, the free version has, where I showed you, let me see. What I showed you where I was clicking on the dot and it was highlighting those arrows, that's in the free version.
okay.
The paid version has this new thing, I wish I could find where it was, but they have this new thing called branching logic where they have a mind map tool that'll pop up on the side and it'll have your results like retail services, and then it'll have any of the questions that you want. You could drag them over and it would connect it, or you could drag, so it's just a little bit more interactive if you're having a hard time mapping out in your brain how it all works out. But that's part of the paid version, and that wasn't a thing. They just came up with that like a week ago. I got an email like announcing this new service, but so I don't know. I don't feel like I would need that now because I understand how to use it. So
So you decided to go with this.
yes.
Did you have 2 questions? So when you started with your questions and then your end result, did your teachers, your program teachers help you, 1? And then 2, what's your learning curve with putting this all together and the amount of time that it took for the completion?
Yeah. The thing I think that took me the most time was figuring out how to do the connection to the homeschools so that we could use this as a tool for our tours. But just as an in-house tool, you know, I had pulled resources from different schools and different websites of like those career cruising statements. I think I went on career cruising website and pulled some things off of there just because I wasn't sure how to word. I wanted it to be as simple as possible without a lot of like vocab in it that would point towards a certain thing that they may not understand. So I pulled as many of those statements as I could. I counted them up. You know, I saw, okay, I only have 7 for automotive, but I have 10 for building construction. So should I take one of these off to balance it out, or should I try to add something new? So in those cases, I might have gone to a teacher and said, like, I'm stumped. I don't know a lot about electronics. Like, can you look at these statements? Is there anything else you can think about that an electronics student might, you know, be interested in, or something in your field that would help? But I didn't really find that I had a lot of problems with that. Because like I said, once I came up with the results and grouped them in the categories, I thought about what do these programs have in common. So like the human services one, protective services and health related, like our nursing and early childhood, like what do they really have in common? Because somebody who goes into protective services, you know, maybe they figure out something about that, like maybe the safety issue, like I don't know if I could do this with my life being threatened.
Right.
So, but I do still want to help people and I don't mind blood, so I'm going to switch over to health related because that's still kind of, you know, in the same category. So that's what I really looked at the results first and went backwards and tried to get those statements from there. So we kind of just went with it. It took me probably a couple weeks, I want to say, I don't know. But like I said, it wasn't like she just kind of, you know, we kind of talked about how can we fix this problem. So it wasn't like a pressing issue that had to be fixed right now. It was what could we make it better, see what we can do, and then I somehow found this website and it went from there. So I don't know.
Did another question?
Yeah.
Just for students, teachers using it for content, are there different ways that they can get to it? Like I see how you did for the sending schools, but we all know that some classrooms don't have a lot of technology.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not Google, and
Right.
could they go to this website, you know, like some you type a code, you know, to find it?
Yeah, so that final stage was the publish changes. You can choose to embed it into something, so if you had a school website, or if you had a Google Classroom or a Google site, you could embed it straight there so the kids could just click on it. You saw on our scholarship page, it actually was right there in the page, so they didn't have to go somewhere else. You could make a QR code, you could, yeah, like, I mean, you have to be able to get to the website in some way. I did a tiny URL, that's how I did it, put up on here for you guys just to make it faster to type. And then as far as the results are concerned, if it was something within the classroom, you know, you could just walk around and say, what were your results, or have them write it down. But even in the homeschool, sometimes we'll have them screenshot, you know, it'll say, you're in our manufacturing cluster, they'll screenshot it and print it out and put it right in the kid's folder. Because we don't need to, maybe I don't need to know what this 8th grader got for their results. They need to know, or the counselor wants to know. So they'll just do that, print it out, and they have it for next year, when they're doing their career interviews or whatever. So there's definitely, or even the counselors could just write down, this kid got this got this, and then email us that list, and we could make our groups from that. But we kind of wanted to make it, one problem we had is that students, different schools were having harder times nailing all those students down to get the quiz done. So we would have a school that a week before the tour, it was all done. All the kids took it, were on top of it. Then we had other schools where the day before the tour, we still had 40 kids that hadn't taken it. And we were like, well, what group are we gonna put them in? Why are they even coming if they're not gonna have some real direction? So it was easy for then me to report back and say, you need to find this group of kids. I screenshotted it, and you said you're bringing these, and these ones didn't take it, get them today. So in real time, I could quick move them into the groups as the day progressed. So,
Yeah, that's true, we just don't, you do your system like,
Yeah.
it's the day of, and we're just like, oh, just bring them,
Yeah.
put them in every when you
well,
get.
this way we could do it where they could be on the bus, on their way to the school, taking it on the phone, and when they got here, okay, here you go, here's your report, So it's quick enough that it works that way. Any other questions?
What about an academic part of it?
Same thing. I used to be an English teacher, so I would have loved to use this with characters to say, like which character are you, and come up with the description of that character, or maybe in a history class, like which dictator are you, and come up with
Like reading
questions.
comprehension?
Yeah.
Because what usually the problem is with personality, like whether their personality fits with your program. Usually, the kids you get in there, they like cars.
Yeah.
Like I'm in collision repair, so
Right.
they like cars. They like working with their hands, but they have a 3rd grade reading level and they have a 2nd grade math.
Right.
And that's kind of where the problem lies, because if they struggled at the homeschool with math and they struggled with reading comprehension, they're probably not going to be a perfect fit for your program, even though
Yeah.
they like art.
And that's,
automotive.
You could also do that in a way, you could come up with some sort of sample questions, like say there was an electronics and you gave them some kind of basic electronics math and saw how they scored.
And maybe you could adjust your program so you didn't spend so much time trying to figure out
Right.
where they fit in your program, if they're going to be in your program.
Right.
I mean,
Or
yes.
grouping them based on, if they got if the majority of your class fell into this lower score, then you know where to start,
Right, you're not going to be good at writing estimates or doing business management, or, they're
Yeah.
better at welding something.
Right. And that's kind of, I used to get kids a lot when I would be writing their IEPs, and I would say, okay, if you're looking at CIT, what do you think you want to do? And they'd be like, oh, I really like electronics. And I was like, you're failing math, like every year. And they would refuse to hear me. And and their parents are, oh, my dad's a mechanic, so I want to be a mechanic. Okay, but you're terrible at what, I'm not going to say that to them. But by doing this, we could say, well, especially with parents, a lot of times they don't want, they think they want their kid I think my kid would be really good at this. And then we can kind of show them this and say,
This is a skill it takes.
Right.
This is what it takes.
And one more thing I didn't show you, I don't know if I could show you quick. When you do the results, you can decide if you want them to see their top result or all of their results in a percentage breakdown. I don't know if I can show it to you real quick.
That's what ours did.
We saw it.
Yeah, okay, good. So, I think I did that on purpose. So you could do it that way, but I don't want to do it that way for our touring students, because I don't want them to see that they got 37% in their top 2 categories, because I don't want them to be torn. Now, granted, maybe that's true and they should, but from a touring perspective, I can't let you see 6 programs. We still got to pick 3. So we wanted to make sure they just got that one result, and that's the direction they're going in. But for a kid who's maybe interested in switching programs, maybe I'll give a different link to the counselors. It's the same quiz, I just duplicated it, but I changed it so that their result shows all the categories and the percentage in all the categories. Because say they want to switch into automotive, and they take the quiz, and it's the last category, 6% automotive. Like, well, honey, that's not, you obviously, based on what you said, that's not gonna work. So it might be good to show them that in some cases. And I think for things like assessments and stuff, you might want them to see you scored really low in this side, this category, or really high in this category. All right.
Jamie's contact information is here. I would also ask, because we're always looking for input as well, so you kind of got exposure to this a little bit. If you go back to your school and you're brainstorming with somebody and you're like, wow, that would be a really neat idea to consider this with, email Jamie too and let us know, because we like to see if there's other ways that you guys have ideas of how it can be used in your schools. These are just 2 or 3 ways that we've come up with so far, but I'm sure we will stumble upon several more.
Yeah, I would love to go in and create like a career pathways quiz for each of our programs to pick the biggest pathways, because like I said, some of them are so distinct that maybe it would be great for the teacher to be able to say, well, in my AM class, most of them want to be manual machinists, but in my PM class, most of them want to work with the CNC machines. So it could really help them target instruction or spend more or less time on different projects based on what the kids like. And I think that asking them the questions that point in the direction to trick them, like they don't know that by answering yes to this question is going to push them in this direction. I think that's a big part of it, because you don't want them to come in with bias or, or what their parents told them is right or wrong. All right, thank you, Kevin.